The cold December wind cut through the empty streets as Tom walked around the Morrison Industries building for his regular security patrol. His worn shoes made soft echoes on the wet pavement, and he pulled his thin jacket tighter against the freezing air. At 32 years old, Tom had learned to ignore the cold, just like he had learned to ignore many other discomforts in his life. Working the night shift as a security guard was not what Tom had dreamed of when he was younger, but life had a way of changing plans. When his wife Sarah passed away 2 years ago from cancer, everything changed. Suddenly, Tom became a single father to 8-year-old Emma, and his world shifted from chasing career dreams to simply surviving each day. The job at Morrison Industries paid just enough to cover rent and basic needs. Tom worked from 10 at night until 6 in the morning, walking the empty hallways and checking doors. It was lonely work, but it meant he could be home when Emma got back from school. Mrs. Peterson, his elderly neighbor, watched Emma during the night hours for a small fee that Tom could barely afford. Tonight was particularly cold. The weather report had warned of freezing rain, and Tom could already feel the first drops hitting his face. He checked his watch. It was just past midnight, time for his break. Usually, he would sit in the small security office and eat the sandwich he packed from home. But something made him walk to the front of the building instead. That was when he saw her. A woman sat on the concrete bench outside the main entrance, completely still in the falling rain. She wore an expensive-looking black dress and heels, but no coat or jacket. Her dark hair was getting wet, and even from a distance, Tom could see her shoulders shaking. Tom stopped walking and watched for a moment. The woman seemed completely unaware of the cold rain soaking through her clothes. Something about the way she sat, so small and broken-looking, reminded him of Emma when she had nightmares about her mother. He walked closer and could hear soft crying sounds mixing with the rain. The woman had her face in her hands, and Tom noticed she was wearing jewelry that probably cost more than he made in 6 months. What was someone like this doing outside his building in the middle of the night? "Excuse me," Tom said gently, not wanting to scare her. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, and Tom saw a face that was beautiful but marked with deep sadness. Her makeup had run down her cheeks, and her eyes were red from crying. She looked to be around 30, with the kind of polished appearance that spoke of money and success. But right now, she just looked lost. "I'm sorry," she said, quickly wiping her face. "I didn't know anyone was here. I should go." "Wait," Tom said, stepping closer. "You're soaking wet. This rain is turning to ice." The woman looked down at herself as if just noticing the rain for the first time. She shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. "I guess I lost track of time." Tom didn't hesitate. He took off his security jacket and held it out to her. It was his only warm layer, but seeing her sitting there in the freezing rain reminded him too much of the times he had felt completely alone in the world. "Here, take this," he said. The woman stared at the jacket like she had never seen one before. "Oh no, I couldn't." "You need it. You're working." "I can handle the cold better than you can right now," Tom said with a small smile. "My daughter always tells me that sharing is caring." "Smart kid." The woman took the jacket with trembling hands and wrapped it around her shoulders. It was too big for her, making her look even smaller, but Tom could see relief on her face as the warmth hit her. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm Anna." "Tom," he replied, sitting down on the bench beside her, leaving some space so she wouldn't feel crowded. "Do you want to talk about what's wrong? Sometimes it helps." Anna let out a shaky laugh. "You don't know me. Why would you care about my problems?" Tom was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to answer. "I guess because everyone needs someone to care sometimes. When my wife died, I learned that small kindnesses from strangers can mean everything." Something in his voice made Anna turn to look at him more carefully. "Your wife died?" "Cancer," Tom said simply. 2 years ago. Left me with my little girl Emma. Some days I felt like sitting in the rain and crying too. Anna's eyes filled with fresh tears. I just came from my father's grave. I hadn't visited him since the funeral a year ago. I kept making excuses, staying away. Tonight I finally went, and I realized how much time I wasted being angry at him. What were you angry about? Tom asked gently. Everything, Anna said, pulling his jacket tighter. The way he worked all the time when I was growing up. How he never seemed to have time for me. How he built this huge company but forgot to build a relationship with his own daughter. When he got sick, I was too proud to visit him much. I told myself I was busy, but really I was just hurt. Tom nodded, understanding the pain in her voice. Sounds like you both missed out on something important. Now it's too late, Anna said, her voice breaking. I can't tell him I understand why he worked so hard. I can't say I'm sorry for being stubborn. I can't ask him about all the things I wish I knew about him. The rain was getting heavier, but neither of them moved to leave. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a small packet of tissues he always carried since Emma started school. Here, he said, offering them to Anna. My daughter taught me to always carry these. She says you never know when someone might need to cry. Anna took a tissue and managed a real smile for the first time. Your daughter sounds wonderful. She is, Tom said, his face lighting up. She's 8, and she's the reason I get up every morning. When Sarah died, I thought I couldn't handle raising her alone. But Emma is stronger than I am sometimes. She helps me remember what's important. What does she think is important? Anna asked, genuinely curious. Being kind to people, even when they're different from us. Sharing what we have, even when we don't have much. Hugging more and worrying less. Tom smiled at the memories. Sometimes I think she's teaching me more than I'm teaching her. Anna was quiet for a long moment, just listening to the rain. I don't have children. I don't have much family left at all. I've spent so much time focused on work and success that I forgot about the things your daughter thinks are important. It's not too late to remember, Tom said. You're still here. You can still choose to be the person your father would want you to be, even if you can't tell him about it. How do you do that? How do you stay positive when life takes away the people you love? Tom thought about the question seriously. I don't think it's about staying positive all the time. Some days I'm angry or sad or scared about the future. But Emma needs me to keep going, so I do. And I try to remember that Sarah would want us to be happy. She would want us to help other people when we can. Is that why you gave me your jacket? Because your wife would want you to help? Maybe partly, Tom admitted. But mostly because you looked like you needed kindness, and I had some to give. My supervisor always tells us security guards to watch for trouble, but I think watching for people who need help is just as important. Anna pulled the jacket closer around her. I can't remember the last time someone was kind to me without wanting something in return. That's sad, Tom said honestly. Everyone deserves kindness just for being human. They sat together quietly for a few minutes. The rain was turning to sleet, making small tapping sounds on the bench and the building behind them. Tom checked his watch and realized his break was almost over. I should get back to work soon, he said. But you shouldn't stay out here in this weather. Do you have somewhere warm to go? Anna nodded slowly. I have a car in the parking garage. I just needed some time to think. Will you be okay driving? You've been crying, and this weather is getting dangerous. The genuine concern in his voice surprised Anna. I'll be careful. Thank you for worrying about me. Tom stood up, immediately feeling the cold air hit him without his jacket. Keep the jacket tonight. You can return it any time. I work here most nights. But you'll be cold, Anna protested, starting to take off the jacket. I'll be fine, Tom insisted, gently stopping her hands. I've got hot coffee waiting in the office, and I'll stay inside more tonight. Besides, Emma would be upset if I let a nice lady freeze because I was too selfish to share. Anna stood up too, still wrapped in his jacket. She was several inches shorter than Tom, and the jacket hung almost to her knees. You really won't take it back? Nope, Tom said with a grin. Emma taught me that when you give something to help someone, you don't take it back unless they don't need it anymore. And you still look pretty cold to me. For the first time in months, Anna felt something like hope stirring in her chest. This man, who clearly didn't have much money or an easy life, had given her his only warm jacket and spent his break time listening to her problems. He didn't know who she was or what she could do for him. He just saw someone who needed help and decided to help. Tom, she said as he started to walk back toward the building entrance. Thank you. Not just for the jacket, but for reminding me that good people still exist. They exist everywhere, Tom said. Sometimes we just forget to look for them. Take care of yourself, Anna. And drive safe. As Tom walked back to the security office, he rubbed his arms against the cold but felt warm inside. Helping Anna had reminded him why Sarah always said that kindness was never wasted, even when life was hard. Anna sat in her car for a long time after Tom disappeared into the building, still wearing his jacket. The simple act of kindness from a stranger had done something that months of therapy and business success couldn't do. It had reminded her that connection and caring mattered more than all the money and achievements in the world. She drove home slowly through the icy streets, thinking about Tom's words and his daughter's wisdom. For the first time since her father's death, Anna began to think about what really mattered in life, and what kind of person she wanted to be. 3 weeks had passed since that cold December night when Tom gave his jacket to the crying woman outside Morrison Industries. He had not seen Anna since then, but he often thought about her during his quiet security rounds. Tom hoped she was feeling better and that she had found some peace after visiting her father's grave. Life had continued its familiar pattern for Tom. He worked his night shifts, came home to make breakfast for Emma, walked her to school, slept during the day, and picked her up in the afternoon. They would spend the evening together doing homework, playing games, or watching cartoons before Mrs. Peterson came to watch Emma during Tom's work hours. Money was tight as always, but Tom had managed to buy a small Christmas tree from the discount lot. Emma had made paper decorations in school, and their tiny apartment felt warm and festive. She had been asking for a new bike for Christmas, but Tom knew it would have to wait until he could save enough money. For now, he was just grateful they had a roof over their heads and food on the table. On this particular Tuesday morning, Tom arrived at work to find something unusual happening. The parking lot was fuller than normal for the middle of the night, and he could see lights on in offices that were usually dark. Several expensive cars sat near the main entrance, including a sleek black car that Tom had never seen before. "What's going on tonight?" Tom asked Jerry, the day security guard who was running late finishing his shift. "Big meeting tomorrow," Jerry explained, gathering his things. "Word is the big boss is finally coming back. You know, the owner's daughter who inherited the company when old Mr. Morrison died. Nobody's seen her for almost a year." Tom nodded, remembering stories he had heard about the company owner. Morrison Industries was a family business that made parts for construction companies. The old owner had built it from nothing, but he had died suddenly the year before, leaving everything to his daughter. Since then, the company had been running with managers, and there were rumors about financial problems. "Think there's going to be changes?" Tom asked. "Always are when new management takes over," Jerry said with a shrug. "Just hope they don't decide they don't need as much security. Good luck tonight." As Jerry left, Tom began his rounds with a slightly worried feeling in his stomach. Change usually meant trouble for people like him. Workers with the least experience and education were always the first to go when companies needed to save money. Tom pushed the worry aside and focused on his work. He checked doors, monitored the empty hallways, and made notes in his security log. Around midnight, he took his break and sat in the security office with his sandwich and coffee. Through the window, he could see more cars arriving in the parking lot. At about 2 in the morning, Tom was walking past the main conference room when he heard voices inside. The lights were on, and he could see several people in business suits sitting around a large table covered with papers. Tom didn't stop to listen, but he caught pieces of conversation about budgets and cost-cutting. The rest of the night passed quietly, but Tom couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. When his shift ended at 6 in the morning, he noticed even more cars in the parking lot and people in expensive suits entering the building. Tom went home, made breakfast for Emma, and walked her to school as usual. But all day, even while sleeping, he had strange dreams about losing his job and not being able to provide for his daughter. When he woke up in the afternoon, he found himself checking the local job listings online, just in case. That evening, as Tom was helping Emma with her math homework, his supervisor called. "Tom, I need you to come in an hour early tonight," Mr. Rodriguez said. "We're having an all-hands meeting at 9 o'clock. Everyone needs to be there." "What kind of meeting?" Tom asked, feeling his stomach drop. "Company announcement. That's all I know. Just make sure you're here." Tom hung up the phone and tried to keep his expression calm for Emma's sake, but inside he was starting to panic. All-hands meetings usually meant layoffs or other bad news. "Daddy, you look worried," Emma said, looking up from her math problems. "Is everything okay?" Tom forced a smile. "Just some changes at work, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." But Emma was smart for her age, and she could sense her father's stress. "Are you going to lose your job?" The direct question surprised Tom. "I don't know, honey. Sometimes companies have to make changes. But no matter what happens, we'll be okay. I promise." Emma reached over and hugged him. "If you lose your job, you can find a better one. You're the best daddy in the world." Tom held his daughter tight, hoping he could keep his promise to take care of her no matter what happened. When Tom arrived at Morrison Industries that night, the parking lot was full of cars belonging to all the day shift workers who had been called back for the meeting. Inside, he found employees gathered in the main lobby, talking in worried whispers. Tom recognized faces from different departments: cleaning staff, office workers, maintenance people, other security guards. Mr. Rodriguez appeared and directed everyone toward the large conference room. Tom had never been in this room before. It was much bigger than he had realized, with a long polished table and chairs that probably cost more than Tom's monthly rent. Tonight, the chairs had been moved aside to make room for all the employees to stand. At exactly 9 o'clock, the side door opened and several people in business suits entered. Tom recognized the plant manager and a few other executives he had seen around the building. But it was the last person to enter who made Tom's heart stop completely. Anna walked into the room wearing a crisp black business suit and carrying a folder of papers. Her hair was pulled back professionally, and she looked confident and composed. This was not the crying, broken woman Tom had comforted 3 weeks ago. This was clearly someone important, someone in charge. But draped over her business suit, barely visible beneath her jacket, Tom could see a familiar edge of dark blue fabric. His security jacket. Tom felt dizzy as the pieces came together in his mind. Anna was Anna Morrison, the owner of Morrison Industries. The woman he had given his jacket to was his boss, not just his supervisor, but the person who owned the entire company. Anna took her place at the front of the room and looked out at the gathered employees. For just a moment, her eyes found Tom in the crowd. He saw a flash of recognition cross her face, followed by something that looked almost like pain. Then she looked away and opened her folder. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Anna began, her voice steady and professional. "I know this is unusual timing for a meeting, but I wanted to address some important changes that need to happen at Morrison Industries." The room was completely silent. Tom could hear his own heartbeat as he waited for the words he was dreading. "As many of you know, my father built this company over 30 years ago," Anna continued. "He was proud of providing good jobs for hard-working people, and he always believed that employees were the most important part of any business. Several people nodded, remembering the old owner fondly. However, Anna said, and Tom heard the change in her tone immediately. The past year has been very difficult financially for our industry. We have lost several major contracts, and our expenses have grown faster than our income. After careful review of our situation, I have had to make some very difficult decisions. Tom felt his hands start to shake. Around the room, he could see other employees tensing up, knowing what was coming. Effective immediately, we will need to reduce our workforce by 20%, Anna announced. This means letting go of approximately 30 employees across all departments. I want to be clear that this decision has nothing to do with anyone's work performance. These are good people losing their jobs because of economic circumstances beyond their control. A woman from the cleaning staff started crying quietly. Several men were shaking their heads in disbelief. Tom felt numb, waiting to hear if his name would be called. Department supervisors will meet with affected employees privately over the next 2 days, Anna continued. We will provide 2 weeks' pay and help with job placement services where possible. I know this is very difficult news, and I wish there were another way. Anna looked around the room one more time, her eyes briefly meeting Tom's again before she looked away. Are there any questions? Nobody spoke. What was there to ask? People needed their jobs, but the decision had already been made. Thank you, Anna said quietly. Supervisors, please stay behind. Everyone else may return to work or go home as scheduled. The room slowly emptied, with employees talking in worried whispers about who might be losing their jobs. Tom walked out in a daze, barely hearing the conversations around him. 2 hours later, during his break, Mr. Rodriguez found Tom in the security office. Tom, I need to talk to you, he said, and his expression told Tom everything he needed to know. My position is being eliminated, Tom said. It wasn't a question. Mr. Rodriguez nodded sadly. I'm sorry, Tom. You're a good worker, and this isn't fair. But security is one area where they think they can cut costs by reducing coverage to just day shift. Tom sat down heavily in his chair. When is my last day? Friday. And Tom, there will be a good reference letter for you. I'll make sure of that. After Mr. Rodriguez left, Tom sat alone in the security office, staring at the monitors showing empty hallways. In 4 days, he would be unemployed with an 8-year-old daughter depending on him. He had a little money saved, but not enough to last long while looking for a new job. But underneath the fear and worry, Tom felt something else, betrayal. Anna had sat there and let him comfort her, let him give her his jacket, let him share his life story about struggling as a single parent. She had seemed so grateful, so touched by his kindness. And now she was the one taking away his livelihood. Tom knew he should finish his shift and go home quietly. Confronting the company owner would probably just make things worse. But as the hours passed, his hurt and anger grew stronger. By 4 a.m, he couldn't hold it back anymore. Tom left the security office and walked toward the executive floor. He had never been up there before, but tonight he didn't care about rules. He needed answers. He found Anna in a large corner office, sitting behind an enormous desk covered with papers. She was still wearing his jacket over her business suit, and she looked exhausted. When she saw Tom in the doorway, she froze. Tom, she said quietly. So you remember my name, Tom said, walking into the office. I wasn't sure you would, considering you just fired me without even looking at me. Anna stood up from her desk. Tom, please let me explain. Explain what? Tom asked, his voice getting louder. Explain how you let me give you my jacket and listen to your problems, and then 3 weeks later you take away my job. Explain how you sat there crying about your father while planning to destroy other people's families. It's not like that, Anna said, but her voice lacked conviction. Then what is it like? Tom demanded. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you used me. You let a stupid security guard feel sorry for you and be kind to you, and then you threw him away when it was convenient. Anna's face went pale. Tom, you don't understand the situation. The company is failing. If I don't make these cuts now, everyone will lose their jobs in 6 months. And you couldn't find a way to cut costs without firing the people who need their jobs the most. I tried, Anna said, and suddenly there were tears in her eyes again. I've been going through the numbers for months. I eliminated executive bonuses. I reduced my own salary. I've been trying to find contracts to bring in more money. But it's not enough. Tom stared at her, seeing the pain in her face but still feeling the sting of betrayal. You knew who I was when you fired me. You looked right at me in that meeting. Yes, Anna whispered. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Then why did you do it? Anna was quiet for a long moment, tears running down her cheeks. Because I'm the boss, Tom. And sometimes being the boss means making terrible decisions to save what you can. I hate myself for it, but I had to choose between letting 30 people go now or watching the whole company collapse and putting 200 people out of work. Tom felt some of his anger fade as he saw her genuine anguish. But he was still hurt and scared about his future. That night, Tom said quietly, when I gave you my jacket. Was any of that real? Or were you just pretending to be someone you weren't? Anna took off the jacket and held it out to him. Everything I told you was true. My father and I did have problems. I was lost and hurting. Your kindness that night meant more to me than you could ever know. Tom looked at his jacket but didn't take it. If it meant so much, how could you take away my job? Because, Anna said, her voice breaking completely, sometimes life forces you to hurt the people you care about most. Tom walked out of Anna's office that night feeling more confused than angry. He had expected her to be cold and heartless, but instead he had seen someone who seemed genuinely torn apart by the decisions she had to make. Still, that didn't change the fact that he would be unemployed in 3 days, with no clear plan for supporting Emma. The next morning, Tom tried to act normal as he made breakfast and got Emma ready for school. She chattered happily about an art project she was working on and asked if they could go to the park after school. Tom smiled and agreed, not wanting to worry her about their uncertain future. Daddy, you look tired, Emma said as they walked toward her school. Are you getting enough sleep? Tom squeezed her hand. Just some grown-up stuff on my mind, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about. But Emma was observant, and she had noticed her father's mood over the past few days. Is it about work? Mrs. Peterson said companies sometimes have to let people go when money gets tight. Tom stopped walking and knelt down to Emma's level. He had been trying to protect her from the truth, but she was smart enough to sense that something was wrong. Emma, there might be some changes coming, Tom said carefully. Daddy might need to find a new job soon. But no matter what happens, we'll figure it out together, okay? Emma threw her arms around his neck. I don't care if we have less money. You're the best daddy ever, and someone will want to hire you. Tom hugged his daughter tightly, amazed by her faith in him. I love you, Emma. More than anything in the world. After dropping Emma at school, Tom spent the day looking for job openings online and making phone calls. Security jobs were hard to find, and most companies wanted people with more experience or special training that Tom didn't have. The few interviews he managed to schedule were for jobs that paid much less than what he was making at Morrison Industries. That evening, as Tom was heating up leftover soup for dinner, Emma came running from her bedroom. Daddy, I don't feel good, she said, and Tom immediately noticed that her face was flushed. Tom touched her forehead and felt intense heat. You have a fever, honey. Let's get you into bed. Over the next few hours, Emma's fever got worse instead of better. She was shivering and complaining that her head hurt. Tom gave her children's fever medicine and tried cooling cloths, but nothing seemed to help. By midnight, her temperature had risen to 104 degrees. Tom knew he had to take Emma to the emergency room, but panic set in as he thought about the cost. He had basic health insurance through his job, but it was scheduled to end when he was laid off on Friday. The emergency room could cost hundreds or thousands of dollars that he didn't have. But Emma's health was more important than money. Tom wrapped his daughter in blankets and drove to the nearest hospital, his hands shaking as he carried her into the bright emergency room. The medical staff took Emma back immediately when they saw her high fever. Tom paced in the waiting room for what felt like hours before a doctor came to talk to him. "Your daughter has a serious infection," the doctor explained. "We need to admit her for observation and start her on intravenous antibiotics. The good news is that we caught it early, and children usually respond well to treatment." "How long will she need to stay?" Tom asked. "Probably 2 or 3 days, depending on how quickly the fever comes down." Tom felt relief about Emma's prognosis, but terror about the financial cost. Hospital stays, medications, and doctor visits would easily cost more money than he had ever seen in his life. "Doctor, I need to ask about the cost," Tom said quietly. "I'm about to lose my job, and I don't know how I'll pay for this." The doctor's expression softened. "Let's focus on getting your daughter well first. The hospital has programs to help families in difficult situations. Talk to the financial counselor tomorrow." Over the next 2 days, Tom barely left Emma's side as she fought the infection. The antibiotics were working, and her fever was gradually coming down, but the worry about medical bills kept him awake at night. On Thursday evening, as Emma was finally feeling well enough to sit up and eat some soup, a nurse came in with papers for Tom to sign. "These are estimates for your daughter's treatment," she said gently. "The financial counselor wanted you to see them before she's discharged tomorrow." Tom looked at the numbers and felt sick. Even with his insurance covering part of the cost, he would owe over $3,000. He had about $400 in his savings account. That night, after Emma fell asleep, Tom sat in the hospital chair and stared at the bill. He had tried calling family members for help, but his parents lived far away on a small pension, and Sarah's family had never forgiven him for not being wealthy enough to save her with expensive treatments. Tom thought about everyone he could possibly ask for help. His neighbors were struggling just as much as he was. His co-workers were facing their own job losses. There was only one person he knew who had money, but asking her for help seemed impossible after everything that had happened. But as Tom looked at his sleeping daughter, he realized that his pride mattered less than her health and their future. At 2 in the morning, Tom found himself dialing Anna's number, which he had gotten from the employee directory. Anna answered on the second ring, sounding wide awake despite the hour. "Tom," she said, recognizing his voice immediately. "Anna, I'm sorry to call so late," Tom began, his voice shaking. "Emma is in the hospital with an infection. She's getting better, but I can't afford the medical bills. I know I have no right to ask you for anything after what happened, but I don't know where else to turn." There was silence on the phone for several seconds. Then Anna said, "Which hospital?" "I'm coming right now." "You don't have to do that," Tom said quickly. "I just need to know if there's any way the company health insurance could help, or if you know of any programs." "Tom, which hospital?" Anna repeated firmly. 30 minutes later, Anna appeared in Emma's hospital room wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, looking nothing like the polished executive from the company meeting. She took one look at Emma sleeping peacefully and then turned to Tom with tears in her eyes. "How is she?" Anna whispered. "Much better. The fever broke this afternoon, and the doctor says she can go home tomorrow." Anna nodded and quietly left the room. Tom followed her into the hallway, confused about why she had come. "Anna, what are you doing here?" "I'm taking care of the medical bills," Anna said simply. "All of them?" "I can't let you do that," Tom protested. "It's thousands of dollars." "Tom, please don't argue with me about this," Anna said, and he could hear exhaustion in her voice. "Your daughter needs medical care, and you shouldn't have to choose between her health and your financial survival." They walked to the hospital's business office, where Anna quietly arranged to pay Emma's entire bill. Tom stood beside her, feeling overwhelmed by the generosity but also confused about her motivations. After they finished the paperwork, Anna suggested they get coffee from the hospital cafeteria. They sat at a small table in the nearly empty eating area, both looking drained from the stress of the past few days. "Why are you doing this?" Tom asked. "After I yelled at you in your office and accused you of using me, why would you help us?" Anna was quiet for a long moment, stirring sugar into her coffee. "Because 3 weeks ago, you gave me your jacket when I needed kindness more than I had ever needed anything in my life. You didn't ask for anything in return. You just helped because you saw someone who was hurting. That's different. A jacket doesn't cost thousands of dollars." "The money isn't important to me," Anna said. "But that night, your kindness was everything to me. You reminded me that good people still exist in the world. You made me remember what my father tried to teach me about taking care of others." Tom looked across the table at Anna, seeing the same vulnerability he had seen that night in the rain. "Tell me the truth about the company. Are things really as bad as you said?" Anna sighed deeply. "Worse, actually. We're probably going to have to make more cuts in a few months. I've been working 18-hour days trying to find solutions, but the construction industry has been hit hard by the economy. Companies aren't building new projects, so they don't need our parts." "What about your father's approach? You said he believed employees were the most important part of the business." "He did, but he also made tough decisions when he had to," Anna said. "The difference is that he always tried to find creative solutions before resorting to layoffs." Tom was quiet for a moment, thinking about the conversations he had heard during his security rounds over the past months. What if instead of just cutting costs, you focused on finding new ways to make money? "I've been trying, but our sales team hasn't been able to bring in enough new contracts." "Maybe the sales team needs help," Tom suggested. "During my rounds, I've overheard phone calls and conversations. I think some of your managers are more focused on protecting their own positions than actually solving problems." Anna looked interested. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe the problem isn't that you need fewer employees. Maybe you need employees who are more focused on helping the company succeed instead of just keeping their jobs." Over the next hour, Tom shared observations he had made during his months of walking through the building at night. He had heard sales managers making excuses instead of trying new approaches. He had seen office workers wasting time and resources. He had noticed that the night cleaning crew often found important documents left on desks, suggesting that day shift employees weren't being careful with sensitive information. "You see a lot during those security rounds," Anna said thoughtfully. "You see everything when people think you're invisible," Tom replied. "Security guards, cleaning staff, maintenance workers, we hear and see things that managers miss because people don't pay attention to us." Anna was quiet for several minutes, clearly thinking about Tom's words. Finally, she looked up at him with a new expression in her eyes. "Tom, I have an idea, but I need to ask you something first. When you comforted me that night, you said your daughter taught you that sharing is caring. Do you think she would understand if you had a chance to help other families keep their jobs?" "What do you mean?" "I want to offer you a position as head of employee relations," Anna said. "Your job would be to find ways to save jobs instead of cutting them. You would work with all departments to identify problems and develop solutions. You would be my eyes and ears for understanding what's really happening in the company." Tom stared at Anna in shock. "You want to give me a promotion after firing me?" "I want to give you a chance to use your insights to save other people from going through what you've been going through," Anna explained. "You understand what it's like to worry about providing for your family. You notice things that managers miss. And you have a perspective on leadership and kindness that I need to learn from." "What about my lack of education? I don't have a college degree or business training." "You have something more important than formal education," Anna said. "You understand people, and you care about doing the right thing. I can teach you about business procedures, but I can't teach someone to have the kind of heart you showed me that night in the rain." Tom felt overwhelmed by the opportunity, but also uncertain. What if I'm not good at it? What if I can't actually help save jobs? Then we'll figure it out together, Anna said, echoing the words Tom had used with Emma. But I think you'll surprise yourself. Sometimes the best solutions come from people who see problems from a completely different angle. The next morning, Emma was discharged from the hospital completely recovered. As Tom drove her home, he explained about his new job opportunity. Emma listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions about what his new responsibilities would involve. So you'll be helping other kids' parents keep their jobs? Emma asked. That's the goal, Tom said. Do you think it's a good idea? Emma smiled brightly. Daddy, remember what you always tell me. Helping others is the most important thing we can do. This sounds like the best job ever. That afternoon, Tom called Anna to accept the position. Over the following weeks, he worked closely with her to develop new approaches to the company's challenges. Together, they implemented employee suggestion programs, created cross-training opportunities to make workers more valuable, and found ways to improve efficiency without cutting staff. Tom's unique perspective as someone who had worked at the bottom of the company hierarchy proved invaluable. He understood which cost-cutting measures would actually hurt productivity and which changes would genuinely help. His background in security meant he was skilled at noticing details and patterns that others missed. More importantly, Tom brought a sense of empathy and practical problem-solving to the management team. His experience as a single parent struggling to make ends meet helped him identify solutions that worked for real families, not just financial spreadsheets. Within 6 months, Morrison Industries was not only stable but growing again. The combination of Anna's business knowledge and Tom's understanding of employee needs created a management approach that motivated workers and improved productivity. Emma thrived in their new life, proud of her father's important job and excited about their improved financial security. She often reminded Tom that helping others had led to good things for their own family, just like she had always believed it would. One evening, as Tom was leaving his new office, he found Anna standing by the same bench where they had first met. She was holding his old security jacket, which she had finally returned after keeping it as a reminder of the importance of kindness. I've been thinking about that night, Anna said as Tom joined her. You told me it wasn't too late to become the person my father would want me to be. I think he would be proud of what we've built together. Tom smiled, remembering his own words from that cold December evening. I think he would be proud that you learned to listen to people like your security guards and cleaning staff, not just other executives. And I think your wife would be proud that you found a way to help other families while building a better life for Emma. They stood together quietly for a moment, both reflecting on how much had changed since that night when a simple act of kindness had brought them together. Tom had learned that sometimes losing everything can lead to finding something better. Anna had discovered that true leadership meant caring for others, not just making tough decisions. As they walked back toward the building together, Anna smiled at a memory. You know what Emma told me last week when I visited your office? She said that sharing your jacket that night was the best thing you ever did, because it helped you find friends who cared about the same things you do. Tom laughed, amazed once again by his daughter's wisdom. She's right. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness lead to the biggest changes in our lives. Looking back, neither Tom nor Anna could have imagined that a moment of compassion on a cold winter night would transform both of their lives and the lives of everyone who worked at Morrison Industries. But Emma had been right all along, sharing really is caring, and helping others always comes back around in ways that surprise and bless everyone involved.